As this session is all about introduction towards SAP HANA, we'll always try to focus on and try to understand why this innovation happened and what is the essential impact which is going to be happening inside the industry. Alright guys, so it's time to get into the deeper dive into the subject area. So before we start, we must need to understand few of the things, like how we are going to be plan up the session and how the entire learning period is going to be happen. And then after, formally I'll introduce myself, and very next to it we'll jump into the subject. You'll be allowed to ask question in between also, but make sure that if you're asking question at the end, it will be always great. You can keep writing your queries in between into the chat window. That will be answered at the same time or at the end of the session. You'll get time to introduce yourself at the end of the session. Due to the number of participants, we are preferring to have your introduction at the end. Well, I hope this is going to be fine. So let's get into it, guys. Well, we are taking over on SAP HANA 1.0 SP11, which is the latest version of SAP HANA. So in this session, we are going to have it, first of all, the introduction of mine, and then we'll look into the course outline, which has been designed for you guys for learning of SAP HANA 1.0 SP11. Then we'll try to understand what is SAP HANA and why SAP HANA. There are two things we are going to talk about in this webinar. What is and why is. And then at the end we'll have a question answer round in which you can have whatever queries related to SAP HANA, you can clear it. Well guys, my name is Manoj Kumar. I'm working as a freelance data warehouse architect and data scientist. It's been 8 years till now I'm into this IT industry. Started my career with SAP BW, where I got exposure about end-to-end data warehousing tools. Our tool, basically SAP BW, which allows us to do end-to-end or from the scratch designing of data warehouse. It is an independent tool which can handle all three parts of data warehouse, ETL and reporting in general. If you don't have an idea about what data warehousing is and how does it works and how the designing used to be processed, you'll get overview about it going on in the session as well. So far I have dealt with two end-to-end implementation individually and 3 to 4 development and support work on SAP BW side. Later on, I got a chance to work on parallelly with SAP Business Object, which is another tool from SAP for reporting specifically, in which I have did couple of implementations and development as well. I even have worked on various versions of SAP Business Object, that is nothing but 4.0, 3.1, and the latest version definitely 4.1 SP11. We do have another tool which support us in various other functionalities in industry. At the same year when SAP has acquired SAP Business Object, they have also got another tool called SAP BODS, which is basically for enterprise level information management. What we call it in very layman language, or in general, we call it ETL tool. So I even have working experience on SAP BODS parallelly with SAP HANA. I started working on SAP HANA with SP5, and parallelly going on, I even have supported some of the companies in India with the implementation and POC work with development in SAP HANA and BODS, starting with SP7. My journey of learning and teaching has started 5 years before, when I was given a task to train the end clients to understand that how application works. So by training the end clients, my journey of teaching has started, and it's been 5 years when I'm teaching people in corporate and online. So far, around 3,000 people has been trained in corporate, around 15,000, or you may can say that more than that, has been trained online. So far, guys, I'm also doing a freelance consulting for SAP EPM, which is nothing but your business planning and consolidation tool in SAP. Some of our multinational clients to whom I'm delivering my consulting and training programs are Wipro, Accenture, Deloitte, Bank of America, Society General, HSBC, USD Global, Capital One, etc., etc. So this is what my summary introduction, guys. Well, it's time to move on and understand the other things. So as for the agenda, the next thing what we have to look on is course outline. Before we jump in, we definitely need to understand that what exactly we are going to cover in this entire program. So this SAP HANA 1.0 SP11, this entire module has been designed for 40 hours, which is like a rough figure we have drawn. It may can vary, it may can go to 45 or 50 hours also, depending on to the class and depending on the number of participants and the discussion happen in there. But altogether, this program can be finished up in 40 hours. We'll have a session every day in weekdays from Monday to Friday for 1 hour every day, mostly on the same time, 7 a.m. IST. Well, in this 40 hours program, we are going to understand that the introduction, which is going to be covered up today itself, but certainly some of the technical introduction is required. Yeah, going on. So after having an introduction about what SAP HANA basically is, we are going to get into the look and feel of it. To understand the look and feel, we definitely have to have the HANA system ready with the RN. For this HANA system, we are going to provide you the server access, which will be nothing but the remote desktop connectivity, where the HANA has already been implemented properly so that you can work on and you can make your hand dirty on this technology. So by looking onto the remote desktop connection, we can understand that how exactly it look and feel is, and what are the options we are having in there. Then after that, we are getting into the architecture, the working feature of HANA. How does HANA work? How does the background things has been designed? To understand it better way, we must need to understand the architecture of SAP HANA. Once we cover up all the basic and all the required pillars to start with this technology, Once we are done with all those, we are getting into the main development role, which started with the data provisioning. It is a technical word used in behalf of how does data movement happen and how do we move data from outside world to HANA world. So we have several methods used to move a data in and out within HANA and outside HANA. So starting with the method 1, which is nothing but data provisioning by flat file. If clients are going to give us not direct access to the database, they are going to give us a flat file to process the requirement. How does that processing will happen using SAP HANA? Then we have another method, which is a traditional method. What we call it is nothing but data provisioning using the ETL tool. And the recommended ETL tool, which we are using over here, called BODS. As it is a family affair, SAP always tends to implement or integrate the SAP product in there. Well, it is a normal or traditional ETL tool what we are using for your data provisioning. So method by which we can move data inside and outside to SAP HANA by using SAP BODS. So it is an ETL based approach by using Agile Data Mart. Then the method 3, which is one of the popular method nowadays, called data provisioning using SLT. So this is nothing but it is a SAP landscape transformation method which allows us to track down the data on the real-time basis. So this is something which is very interesting and very new, which has been introduced in SAP HANA in a couple of service pack back. It has been introduced in SP6 basically, in full-fledged in SP7, where it started replicating data on the real-time basis. Going on, once we're done with all the replications methods we have it in SAP HANA, it's time to do designing of your model. First, understand how does it process. Once we have the data inside the SAP HANA environment, we need to give a structure to the data so that it can be further used for analytical purposes. So for that purpose, we have a modeling section which allowing us to design different kinds of models. So it is not a traditional model which we are going to design it, but we do have a HANA specific model, like we call them views, called attribute views, which consist of only the dimensional architecture, analytical views which have the star schema structure, calculation views which allows us to implement some of the calculation, which reduces my complexities, which is going to be handled on the reporting end. So pre-calculations done at the modeling side itself, which is nothing but the specification about calculation views. We do have separate other ways to implement this modeling methods, like we have both GUI and script method to implement it. We'll see that all those methods which is available inside it. Not only that, this consists of an entire and each and every component which is going to be used within the modeling, definitely. Once we're done with the second part of the modeling, or second module of the model, or I can say the second fraction of the SAP HANA, which is nothing but the modeling. Let me tell you guys very clearly, HANA consists of the three parts: your replications, your data provisioning, your modeling, and the reporting. The administration, it will be always there because every application needs administration. So let's take it administration as default, but it has a three section which we definitely need to be covered up: provisioning, modeling, and reporting. So we have already discussed about and talked about what we are going to cover in the provisioning and the modeling. Let's talk about the reporting. Well, the certified reporting tool, what we are going to use it is business object, definitely, as I mentioned already, that always SAP wanted to use their own family tool, which is it's not the outside world, it's a family affair, definitely. So it's not that we cannot use another ATL business instead of business object, we cannot use any other reporting tool. We definitely can, but in this curriculum or for learning the SAP HANA, as I mentioned, it's a recommended method or recommended tool to be used. So we are going to understand how does reporting layer of SAP HANA work, how do we integrate SAP HANA with business object, business intelligence world, and how does IDT, which is one of the newly introduced tool in business object for designing of your universe, which is a concept of designing a semantic layer, how does it helps us to integrate SAP HANA to business object environment, and how do we move my HANA cube into the business object. So those are the several methods. By using business object, different application, how does we can design different kinds of reports. Apart from that, we are also going to integrate SAP HANA, our cubes, with some of the third-party applications like Excel, Microsoft PowerPoint, etc., etc. So what are the connectivity and how does we publish those reports? Not only publish, how do we get our data into the Excel if you want to access it generally. So the method of using those connectivity and the processing will be handled in this topics. Well, once we're done with this reporting part, we need to understand that how does the administration takes place in SAP HANA at the minimum level, not at the higher level. So being as a developer, whatever understanding we need to have it on administration side will be always going to be given to you, as we have a separate module for complete administrative tasks towards SAP HANA. Well, guys, in there we are going to understand that how user management, how the role defining, how their restrictions will be given to the users using the HANA Design Studio tool. Well, after that, how the security and authorization helps us and allows us to manage any user and any report or any views which we have created. Once we are done with that, we are also going to talk about what is new in basically the concept what we have, a little overview about what exactly SAP BW 7.4 with SAP HANA. Because nowadays this is very popular in the market that we call it a BW powered by HANA. To understand that better way, we'll give you the overview about it, like how does SAP BW 7.4 has been powered by SAP HANA, and what is the purpose of it, how does it work, whether SAP was not aware about the in-memory before, which they have integrated now. We will talk about this in this part of the curriculum. And then at the end, the specific feature which has been introduced very new called text search and analysis at the end. So this is what our curriculum about SAP HANA, which is going to be taught to you in next 40 hours of program. All right, guys, so that is what the course outline what we have. Now let's jump in and understand what exactly SAP HANA means. So before I jump in, let me take up something which has been written into the chat as a query. Let me see that. Okay, it's just a hi. All right, not a problem. Okay, so let's understand the point, guys. What exactly HANA is. Then we'll discuss why HANA. As we know that HANA is a new bird. in the century. You might be thinking, or many of you have so many different kinds of thoughts about SAP HANA. And it's like a flamingo which flies from Australia to India and India to Australia in season by season. So I can say that always it have a different flavor which when it goes and treat with different application in the IT industry. Well, SAP HANA, which has been abbreviated as High Performance Analytical Appliance, gives us a 360 view of this application and the phenomenon which running behind it. When I say appliance, it definitely have a combination of software and hardware. So what I'm saying is H stands for high, A stands for like your analytical, and an A, or I can say that the last A is nothing but your appliance. So HANA is high performance analytical appliance. Let me tell you one more time, guys. When I mention the word appliance, that consists of, or anything can be called as an appliance only if it is a combination of software and hardware. So HANA do have a combination of software and hardware. It cannot work without an hardware, specific hardware, and software definitely. You might be start thinking, why I'm talking about software and hardware? What is new in there? Well, guys, if you talk about any application, that application is a software. But moreover, we are not specific, or we are not restricted with any kind of hardware configuration on which it works. It is hardware independent. Sometimes we can't say that. If you take up any application, it always performs well in any operating system and in any hardware system. But as this is in-memory computing engine, it definitely requires a specific hardware system on which the computing of in-memory going to be work. So that's why I'm saying it is nothing but it's a combination of software and hardware. SAP provides the software where there are many vendors of SAP by whom we are going to get HANA boxes, means the hardware ready for my software or depending on my use. So the story is, if you require any in-memory system, especially from the SAP end, you need to give your requirement to the company, SAP, and what SAP will do based on your requirement, they will order the hardware, or they have pre-built system for different requirement. So depending on their requirement, they are going to make it ready, the HANA boxes, and that boxes is going to be implemented at your end. So that is how it is. They are going to provide you the software and hardware both together so that it will give you the better performance and the performance expected. Well, guys, as I was about to talk about what is SAP HANA, well, SAP HANA is more than high-performance analytical appliance. It is more than what we are talking now. So what it is? To understand the factor of SAP HANA, we need to go back, we need to take a step back and understand that how does our general computing works, which is going to give you the 360-degree overview about working on HANA and the concept of in-memory system. As many of you might not have a clear vision about what in-memory system is, let me give you the overview about it. Well, guys, as I mentioned, our general computing system will have a database, or I can say that RDBMS system, or let's take it in a different manner. I have a system over here, and I do have a database here. In general, my computing system works in this phenomenon. Every time the user gives a request, every time the user gives a request to the computer, the request has been tackled by your CPU. First it goes to the CPU. Then what the CPU does, it gives an order, or it gives an instruction to your RAM. What RAM does, it looks back into your mechanical hard drive to open the application or process the request which has been given by the user. So this is how the general computing works. Every time the user gives a request, CPU gives an instruction to the RAM, and RAM goes back into the mechanical hard drive and process your request. So this, every time, processing by the RAM, which takes your input and your output. In general, we call it this I/O processing, input-output processing, which is going to be our bottleneck of performance. This I/O processing is nothing but a bottleneck for us. Every time it goes in and takes out whatever request we have requested to the CPU. So the problem is, the time taken to input and output is going to cause us delay. As I mentioned already, it's a bottleneck. It has a lot of spaces, but it restricts the performance. It delayed the processing. So to increase this processing, we wanted to get rid of this by a method, we call it in-memory computing. This is your traditional computing, guys. This is how our normal computer works. If I'm going to talk about in-memory computing, then I need to replace this part of the world, which is going to I/O processing. This part has to be terminated from here. This processing has to be minimized. And how I'm going to minimize this processing at all? Well, guys, to minimize this processing, I definitely need to have those requested things present inside the RAM itself. Well, RAM is nothing but your volatile memory. You might be thinking that if I need to open a Word file, a PowerPoint presentation, how can I keep it into the RAM? We have a word called cache memory. We know that sometimes some shortcuts, some of the data are going to be kept at for temporary purpose in the cache memory. But how does I'm going to keep it, the Excel file or any kind of files or data within the RAM? We haven't seen it so far. So there is a process which is been designed, and that is what the SAP HANA system is, which letting you to keep a data into the RAM. Well, guys, in memory means keeping your stuff into the memory. And the memory of a computer is nothing but your RAM. So I'm going to keep, instead of in the mechanical hard drive, the data is going to be kept into the RAM. If I could keep the data into the RAM, what will happen? The very next time, what will happen? The user given the request to the CPU, CPU receives the request, and it immediately processes to the RAM. CPU is very fast. It's very fast. It takes nanosecond to process the request or this to CPU to the RAM. So it immediately processes the request to the RAM. If RAM does have that, then instead of going in and out, what it does, it give it back what you are looking for if it kept it into the RAM. What I mean by it is, if I'm having the stuff present inside the RAM, instead of going to the mechanical hard drive and looking into the item and take it back and then present it, what RAM will do, immediately it will give you back with required stuff. And that makes our RAM, or that makes our system to perform better and faster in this way. So this is what the concept behind the in-memory computing. The in-memory computing allows us to keep data into the memory so that it can minimize the I/O processing, which is a bottleneck of the system. We cannot have intelligent analysis if I'm having this I/O processing. It restricts us with the time interval. It restricts us with the performance when I go with the intelligent analysis in this input-output processing. So in general, guys, if it comes to write the data into the hard drive, it's fine. We are going to write the data and we are going to read the data. That is what your input and output processing is. But if I only have to analyze the data, I'm going to keep the data into the RAM so that it can be read out quickly. So it's not that it's basically going to be kept only for the analytical purpose, but as it has main ingredients required, which is a high performance of analytics. So we are going to talk about that only. Otherwise, you might be thinking that can we make our traditional computer to be work as in-memory? Can we keep data instead of hard drive into the RAM in our traditional system? No, of course not. That is not going to work. But it requires a specific system to do that. That is what SAP HANA is helping us. It is helping us to keep data instead of hard drive into the RAM to do analytical processing. The specific requirement what we required is analytical processing. Well, guys, why analytical processing? In the world of data warehousing, we know that we do modeling, ETL, and reporting. By combining all these three processes, a design comes up, which we call it data warehouse. So in that, the prime thing what we required is reporting. Nowadays, we know that we want report to be generated or report to be shown with the updated data in a single click. So for that single click, we need a faster processing of data to read out. The read performance should be enhanced. To enhance the read performance, you definitely need to process the data from the in-memory, not from the mechanical hard drive. That means our traditional system, which is used for writing a data into mechanical hard drive, which we call it OLTP system, it is going to be like, we'll have a database and there'll be front end. So that front end, what it does, it takes off all the inputs and it feeds the data into your traditional RDBMS system. And this is going to be a front end. So the write of data is going to be happen in the traditional manner. This is going to write the data. But as I want to increase the read performance of the system, and that read performance of the system is going to be done by in-memory system. Every time you write the data, the data is going to be written into the row manner. So keep in mind, the writing feature or writing of these data always oriented with a row-based approach. When it comes to read the data, you can read the data in a better manner and faster manner when it is going to be stored in a different manner, not into the row manner. That is nothing but the columnar manner. I'll make you understand further on going on in the future classes what is row-based approach and what is column-based approach and how does it supports your OLTP and OLAP system. So this is your traditional OLTP system. This is how it works. There is a front end, and the front end applicant or user is going to feed the data into it, which is going to be captured by your backend RDBMS system quickly, immediately. So it has already the right performance orientation available. But when it comes to read data from the same system, it is going to be delayed because the system is not designed for it. So to make it done, we have designed a data warehouse, where data warehouse also consists of the data into the mechanical disk drive. So let me give you the example for that to make it more clear about that. Let me take an example of my known system called BW. So this is your data warehouse or a BW application which allows you to design a data warehouse system. So this is my BW, and it consists of a backend storage system, which is nothing but your traditional database. Could be anything, could be Oracle, could be SQL Server, not specific to the brand. So what will happen if I'm going to process the data in this situation? It again gives you the bottleneck with IO processing. Every time a user requests to read any data, what it does, it goes in and picks the data and gives it out. So here also I'm having a situation of IO bottleneck, which is going to be, or which has been already been minimized by a system called BW Accelerator. That means those clients who were using SAP BW, they will start facing some of the delay due to the large amount of processing of data. Not only that, and due to the immediate requirement of your reports, they will start feeling little lag in the time. So they requested SAP to provide something as a solution which can enhance their performance. So what SAP given them immediately at that time called BW Accelerator. SAP given them an in-memory computing system called BWA, Business Warehouse Accelerator, which is nothing but was not your in-memory system, the first in-memory system inside the SAP. Well, guys, that tells us that SAP is not new in memory. They are pretty aware about what in-memory from decades. So what we have now, instead of keeping the data into the Oracle SQL Server, which is basically going to be in there, but on some periodic basis, what we are doing is we are keeping a copy of data into BWA. We are periodically keeping a copy of data into BWA. So whenever the request of reading data will be happened, or whenever the request comes to process the data, what BWA will do, it will process without coming to the mechanical hard drive or to the RDBMS system. Instead of that, it will fetch the data from the copy which we have made it already. So every time data gets into the written into the Oracle or SQL Server database, very next time it will be copied to the BWA as well. it do have an in-memory database in there, which allows it to keep a data inside the memory. So what it does, in very next time, the BW, if it required to process the data, it will process from the BWA itself. But what has happened? If we had already a full-fledged system available to support BW with in-memory, why do we need SAP HANA then? You may can see that there are three stuff over here. One is the BW application, another is BWA application, and the database application as well. So what SAP innovators they thought of, definitely clients have so many problems implementing and managing all this three stuff independently. Why can't we provide them something which can give them in-memory computing as well as database feature? And there where the innovation of SAP HANA has started, in the presence of or in the guidance of Kapil Sikka, who used to be called as father of SAP HANA innovation. So what Kapil Sikka proposed, he said, instead of having three different systems, why can't we have it a system which is going to act like a database and in memory too? Because anyhow we are using a database altogether in both the places. If you can look back, here is the database, which is a traditional database, and also BWA having a database which is called in-memory database. So how can we replace that? Can we have a simplified system? And he proposed it, a system called SAP HANA, which is now going to be called as a DB, or in-memory database. So in general, I can also say that SAP HANA is nothing but it is a in-memory database. It is a in-memory database which allows us to process my data through the in-memory. So instead of keeping a data back to the mechanical disk, right, I'm going to keep the data into SAP HANA. You may can have a question rolling in your mind. Sir, what will happen if something goes wrong, some disaster happened, and the system or the server on which the SAP HANA is running is going to be shut down? We are going to lose all the data. Definitely yes. If in general we are keeping data into the SAP HANA only, definitely we can lose it. But we have a supported system made where I'm going to store a data as a backup. We'll have a backup system always. So you may can say that another infrastructure required to implement SAP HANA. We need to have a backup of data periodically every time. So I can say that yes, definitely, but it is going to be required only if a disaster happened. Otherwise, it is not going to be required. It is just for your safer side so that you are not going to lose your valuable asset or data. Well guys, this in-memory database is nothing but SAP HANA, which replaces the traditional database and the BWA accelerator to support BW. Now, the clients, those who are using BW, they can directly implement SAP HANA and they can use it and they can process this data by applying it in their infrastructure. And it has a capacity that it can support both OLTP and OLAP system. That means it do have write and read performance both oriented. That means it can give you faster write performance and faster read performance both together by managing data in row and columnar manner. Both is going to be happen in there in the same time. It do have facilitated with both the options so that it can support in OLTP and OLAP system together. And that is what the popularity of this SAP HANA is tending towards the enterprise world. And that is why HANA has been got so much of popularity in the market. Well, apart from the money, apart from the type of simplicity it provides, it do have feature which can be used in both the end, either onto the OLTP side or to the OLAP side. That means it can independently work as a database or in-memory database. So that is what SAP HANA is. All right, and this is why we are using SAP HANA, which made us to replace our traditional system and a system which is used for in-memory computing. So both the system has been replaced by SAP HANA system so that it can give you both performance-oriented environment. I can say that formally, if you implement your SAP HANA at your enterprise world, it allows you the single maintenance environment by which you can avail the facility of a database, as well as it can give you the better read performance as well. If you have an infrastructure to manage your business, it can support you there also. You can keep the database as a supportive system of your business, and that the same database is going to give you orientation for reporting as well. So that is make HANA to be used in the enterprise more and more nowadays. And I can say that the topic why HANA is all about this feature only. To understand in a better way how does these all features has been facilitated inside this HANA environment, we'll understand and we'll go and we'll try to manipulate some of the supportive things which is already been introduced in SAP, or I can say that SAP was not new about those things. Those things which is well tested before for computing, searching with the row-based and columnar-based has been integrated in SAP HANA and made a new environment which we are taking up today. So this is what the overview and 360-degree insight about SAP HANA to make you understand what SAP HANA basically is, what in-memory computing understand as technically and functionally both together, and why we are using SAP HANA more and more in the enterprise level. So that's all from my end, guys. Let me give you a chance to introduce yourself and ask question if you're having it. For that sake, I'm going to unmute you guys one by one. You can go ahead and you can introduce yourself. Just give me the overview about the technical specification you're having it, or if you're not expertise on anything, don't worry about that. You can mention your the latest education. Well, let me start with Aditya Bhutia. Sorry, it's Aditya Bhutra. Hi, Aditya. Can you hear me? Hi, Aditya. Can you hear me?
Gente, vou precisar de falar aqui agora.
Aditya, can you hear me? Aditya, I can hear you. Aditya, can you hear me? All right, Aditya, if you're having any trouble with your mic, you can go ahead and you can write in the chat. Hi, Arnav. Arnav, can you hear me? All right. Muhammad, can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, Arnav. I can hear you now. Arnav, you there? Arnav, you there? I think we lost you. No worries, you can go ahead and you can write in the chat. Yeah, hang on, Muhammad. I'm coming back to you. Not a problem. You can always go ahead in the chat. I can view your voice. Go ahead. Any query, Arnav? Thank you very much, Arnav. I appreciate you too. All right. That's good. Thank you very much, Arnav. Hi, Muhammad. All right. So do you have any queries, Muhammad?
No query at all. This was a nice session. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So, Muhammad, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience just in few seconds?
Yeah, I'm from Pakistan, Islamabad, and I'm working in a telecom organization. And
all right, very good.
Anything else?
No, nothing. Just to understand that the audience, nothing else. Thank you, Muhammad. Thanks for joining this webinar. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Rodrigo. How are you doing? Can you hear me? Rodrigo, can you hear me? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So there's no query as such. So anybody else has any query? I can see a few people have joined just now. So guys, you haven't missed anything. You can always catch up this session recording onto BASP webpage. You can go back and you can look into it, what we have covered, and all the plans of the session which is going on from the